What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring you incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is an American writer, an entrepreneur, and an academic researcher. Please welcome Rhonda Parker Taylor. Rhonda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to our discussion and having a good engagement.
Oh, yes, for sure. You've got such an incredible background. I was reading your bio again today, and I'm just like, wow, we've got some similarities. I'm in the Midwest. I pursued fashion for a little bit. I'm not a writer. That's something I don't know if I'll ever be able to tackle that, but just like a lot of different things you've pursued. And now you are a thriving author, and you've written from educational to fiction. Can you kind of walk us through like what got you to become a writer and thrive in it?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say never say never.
Okay.
I would never have thought in my wildest dreams that I would be an author or that I would be patient. But it took from my journey of working with good mentors to really find my purpose. And everybody has a purpose and what they're supposed to be good at. And a lot of times we don't even know it. I flunked my English proficiency test.
Oh, wow.
And was a teacher that said, you know what, I'm going to tutor you over the summer so you can graduate. Yeah. And the opportunities are going to be there. And she tutored me, and she learned my strengths and my weaknesses during that period of time. And when it came to the end of our journey, I passed the proficiency test. I asked her what I owed her. I worked at an Arby's, and she said, nothing. You passed your proficiency test.
Okay.
So this teacher set a whole set of things in action for me. I was able to go to college. I was able to get my my associate's first in fashion. Then I got a business degree, and a bachelor's degree, a master's, and then a doctorate. So had it not been from that one mentor, I never have made it to the place that I am now. But at the same time, every season of my life, there was someone that mentored me, that I could give some kind of contribution. And it may have been the smallest of conversations, but they may have taken me to another place in my mindset. I'm sure you've experienced things like that before.
Oh, yeah. I've had a couple mentors in my life, sure.
So that took us to a journey of being back in Indianapolis. I started my academic journey in Texas, and then came back to Indianapolis. And what I did during that period is I started working in the business world, and I saw so many diverse things happening that I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to try to write.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that'll be a journey for me. But like all journeys, there's struggles.
Oh, yeah.
And during that, I got the book done, and then it sat on my desk, believe it or not, for 20 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, and one day I went to the floppy disk just because I have 4 books, and I went to the floppy disk to get something academically that I did way back when in the day, and the floppy disk had ate it.
Oh, no.
I started looking at the printout of the book, and I'm like,
oh, no.
I had these images that I had to read. I had to type it, edit it, all of the things all over again. I was like, it's time. That is it. This is not going to be the printout that someone sees at my funeral and said, oh, that could have been a best-selling novel, but she didn't ever publish it.
Yeah.
And I went out, and guess what? Now I'm a best-selling author, and I'm alive for it. So never say never. Just go out and do it.
That's right. And so you sat on a book for 20 years, and when did you release it? Was it 2002?
No, I actually I released it in 2020, February of this year, 2020.
Oh, this one that you from 2000, you released it this year. Oh, okay.
Things I had done academic work and published it. And all of these other things, but I never let go. I never made myself vulnerable enough to let go of that. No.
There you go. That's the key word right there, vulnerable, because you're putting yourself out there. What's it like writing fiction versus nonfiction? I think it's fascinating about fiction with fiction authors that you can do that.
Well, the first thing is when you do the academic writing,
Yeah,
you sit down and you do like a literature review, which is just basically summarizing everything that's already out there
sure.
at that topic. And so when you do fiction, I kind of did the same approach. What I did is I said, okay, what's out there? What do I want to do? But I sat down with my characters and said, okay, Paris. I did it like a soap note. So anybody that's in medical knows what a soap note it is. Basically, every demographic on her, whether it be her height, her age, her physical, and as I did that through it, and what of her parents were not alive, and how did they die, and when I did that, I got to know the character, so I knew that if she would cough, or if she would, how she would handle stress, or how
Oh,
because that's how the medical community handles it.
okay.
So through it, the emotional. Does she have any mental challenges? And her core characteristic is, and a lot of people from the Midwest, I'm sure a lot of your audience will relate to this. We're raised that we're workers. You're not any unless you work.
Right.
Was a workaholic,
Hmm.
and so I started weaving these characters, and then I also in my personal life, I was volunteering in some community action kind of projects, and I saw the betrayal that sometimes people experience
Hmm.
and in their communities, and I was like, wow,
Yeah.
you know, the court system. Sometimes there's just no end, and so I kind of weeded all those together. Like, okay, most people won't even socialize like this.
Yeah.
Unless there's an event. So the main character gets called to jury duty. So she's in there with housewives, which she doesn't understand, even though her friends are.
Yeah.
Um, she's a workaholic. And then she's in there with, other all these different characters. And then she's seeing the criminal justice system for the first time. And it kind of goes through her journey of experiencing all these different types of people, the prosecutor and defense, and saying, wait a minute, what have I missed in my life?
Yeah. Hmm.
And she starts saying that not only is it a fiction suspense thriller, and people start getting sick and dying, and then she becomes the jury foreman. And I don't want to be the spoiler alert.
Right. No, don't.
She starts seeing all this for the first, as if she was a newborn person. Like, okay, I'm missing a whole segment of life because
Yeah.
all I starts questioning that.
Sure.
So you for a journey with the main character, with the characters, but you're also going through an exploration of your own life balance. Are you fulfilling your own purpose as she's questioning these things, same thing, and the people around her?
Very cool. And so and it's a crime novel, right?
That's correct. The name of it's Crossroads, and you can find it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or BAM. And there is a second one coming out, probably I would say beginning of next year.
Well, congratulations. When did you start working on that one?
Well, it's been sitting 20 years also.
Oh,
Of them, and so we're in the editing process of it because I had never
wow. So you wrote 4 back to back, 20.
freeze. Each one you get to see their struggles.
Sure.
Characters. So in this case, it's the main character is Paris. She's the workaholic out of Indianapolis that works in finance. She's the business major. Then the second one is a young woman that is a secondary character in the first book, and it's more on vulnerability, not knowing and trusting too much, becoming a victim. How do you prevent yourself from being victimized? That we sometimes raise young women to be victimized by what we teach them in how to respond with the world.
Yeah. So is Paris kind of like Paris? Is she kind of like you?
I think all of them are.
Oh,
Even the that you would say, oh, I would never deal with them, because they're all are, as you're writing, you're exposing a little bit of yourself. You're like,
yeah.
okay, how would I handle this? What would I do?
Hmm.
What would these people do? And yes, you may never drop a dead body off the 38th and Guyan Road,
Yeah.
but you may have been in a situation where you were riding with someone that could have,
Yeah. Wow.
or you have um, had a flirtation with a person at a food court.
Yeah.
It's so all of these different events happen in our lives every day.
Sure.
Yes, Paris may be predominantly out of all the characters more my core value because it was my first book,
Yeah.
but she also is everybody's, I think, because especially women when they have to make decisions about friendship and work and life and who do we trust and all of those
Yeah.
things. I'll make those decisions every day.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love that. I love that you are open about that because I've had maybe one or two other fiction writers on the show, and I asked them that question, and they were very hesitant to really answer it. Like because I think that if you're going to be writing a book and it's fiction, I mean, I would assume that it would be kind of like your alter ego a little bit.
Right. Right. It is a little bit, and that's why I say on all characters, because if you were going to do certain things, what would be your method? How could you handle it? So yeah, or maybe you want to step outside of the box as a fiction writer and say, okay, I want to be totally different. I would never think this, but guess what? It's still in your psyche.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you research it, like someone said at a book signing said, how did you know how to do an autopsy? I had to research it.
Well, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you learn how the police do their banter? And that's one of my favorite parts. I went on a ride with some police officers, and I saw, and I would hear their banter, as they're, doing an accident. I didn't get to see a crime scene like what I suggested in or shown in Crossroads, but everything is an experience. So it could be you at any given time in your life.
Wow. Very cool. What was your inspiration for the book?
Originally, it was seeing the injustices in the legal system.
Mm. Huh.
It turned, though, that's why I say never say never, because as I did it, I realized it was a journey in relationships, too.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of the things that the reviews say a lot about is that the personal relationships and the individual development of each character is one of the strengths. And I think it's because I really thought about each character and what their roles were in their lives and in their interactions with each other, whether it was a mentor in the relationship, a supporter of the main character's life, or the flirtation. What does that really matter to her and to each other?
Yeah. Very cool. You mentioned vulnerable. And so you didn't want to be vulnerable to release a book. What was was it when the floppy disk was eaten is when you're like, that's it, I'm going to publish this?
Well, I had started to publish it in the early 2000s. I had and all of a sudden my life took a turn. So just almost like in the book where her life takes a turn, it's almost like I may have been almost a premonition of my own life because my mother got cancer and died.
So sorry.
To the day, my adopted son, my mom died on September 19th. To the day after that, a couple of years later, my adopted son was shot and killed
Oh,
on
my goodness.
accident, and at a workplace accident, or not an accident when someone comes in with a gun, but he was a
Right.
bouncer. And so as my cycle of life kind of, I became more frail
Yeah.
to myself into a vulnerable position. I was in more of a survival, and had to practice more positivity and rejuvenate myself.
Yeah.
Then it became life was busy and you had to do this and you had to do that. And when that floppy disk did it, I realized, wait a minute, what about your dream?
Yeah, for real.
Those dreams sometimes, or even at least try. And my sister said, if you never make yourself vulnerable, and that's where a mentor comes in. And I
Yeah,
have an older sister says, you'll never know.
right. I think vulnerability is a superpower, actually.
But I think you're right. I think a superpower is a good term for that because it doesn't matter what the outcome is then.
Yeah, I agree. I think that fear is an illusion, and it's just we got to get past like that self-limiting belief to just you got to just do it, just pull the trigger, right? Like what's the worst that could happen? And so since you've released this Crossroads February of this year, what has been the response?
You know, I've been blessed. It's not that it had, I'm definitely not a Kuntz, or a Patterson or these big, it's not been that because of course I'm a first time novelist that nobody knows. And if they did, it's probably because they were sitting in one of my college classes as a teacher. So, but what I was blessed with as it's become successful, if it did become a best-selling author in that, is I realized just how wonderful people could be.
Mm-hmm.
Because like my first book signing, you know, my elementary principal showed up.
Oh wow,
My high school dean, head of the school showed up.
wow,
And I was able to say to them, "Did you ever think I would write a novel?"
yeah,
And they said, "No." And of course, it's, one that struggled. I was social, so
yeah,
the blessings along the way is learning I can do it,
yeah, mm,
putting focus in place again, finding my purpose again. I love teaching people and I love working what I do for a living because, I coach people, I teach in the college level, but it also made me self aware again of who I am. So it doesn't matter if it's a novel or how beautiful your home can be or an exercise program that you've been meaning to start because you're just not feeling well and you know that if you don't your life is going to your temple is going to deteriorate. That purpose that pur- pur- purposeless life means you need to put the purpose back in.
yes,
And put that purpose back in, you become self-aware, start practicing self-care again, you start building those relationships and networking and things like this podcast. I'll be following your steps from here on out and knowing that we had this engagement and how you don't get to do that in today's world.
yeah, that's true. I like that. That was beautiful. Rhonda, where can people find you, connect with you, and purchase your book?
Okay, so they can purchase my book on Amazon
Mhm.
or on Barnes and Noble's website or on BAM Million. It's
There we
called
go.
it's a suspense novel. It's been endorsed by Marilyn Hemingway
Mhm.
and J.J. Hibbert, and both of them are excellent novelists. And Marilyn obviously has a history along the way with her grandfather being Ernest Hemingway. And you can find me on my website. Everything's Rhonda Parker Taylor, so that's
Perfect.
very. The only thing is remember Rhonda has an H.
Okay.
And my website's Rhonda Parker Taylor. My email, all of any Facebook, Instagram, all of them. I'm on. Well, I can't say all of them. There's so many social medias now. That I'm not on all of them, but all the primary ones. And I would be love to engage or answer questions for people anytime.
Excellent. You guys will put those links in the show notes. So if you connected with Rhonda here today and want to support her and purchase her book, go click the link, go follow her on social media and check her out and follow her journey as she continues to expand at being an author in today's world. Rhonda, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
What I'd like to leave is something that's part of my book, and it's kind of the lesson learned, and that is anger is cruel and fury is overwhelming, but but who can stand before jealousy? You can never find your purpose if you compare yourself to others. Don't do it. Envy rots the bones, and that's proper. And so I would tell everybody out there, be who you are. There is nothing wrong with who you are. You are a creature of this earth that has a purpose. You just have to be open to find it. And the purpose may not be a novel. It could be making the best coffee that anybody can have because you like the way it makes people feel and you like the different parts of nature that makes it that way. It doesn't matter. It's your purpose. So do not fear yourself, because if you want to be great, you have to make every day great.
Beautiful. I love it. Rhonda, thank you so much for being such a great guest today, and congratulations on becoming vulnerable and releasing your first book. We look forward to hearing the success of the next ones to come. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Looking forward to hearing from everybody.
You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.